Hello everyone, my name is Kevin with Alpha One IT, and welcome to Mastering Windows Server 2022, your go-to series for all things Windows Server. So with that, let's dive in. In this video, we're going to be covering installing Windows Server 2022 Desktop Edition. During this, we're going to cover the Microsoft Server operating system setup, we're going to go through the Windows operating system installer, and then we're going to do some basic operating system configurations. So let's go ahead and jump into our virtual machine here. Okay, so now we're in our virtual machine. If you guys don't already have one set up, I would highly suggest you guys look into doing something like Hyper-V or VirtualBox in order to be able to set up a virtual machine. I'm not going to cover that in this video, but this is something that I can cover later on if we wanted to, if we were to set up a lab environment or something. But with that, we're going to be installing the Windows Server 2022 operating system. The minimum requirements for this are going to be a 1.4 gigahertz 64-bit processor, minimum 2 gigabytes of memory, and then 32 gigabytes on the hard drive. So if you have that, you're in pretty good shape. So this is going to be the screen that you get whenever you boot into the initial setup of the operating system. You're going to want to set your language details, your time, as well as your keyboard. For most people, if you're going to be doing English or in America or anything like that, it's going to default to this. So we're going to click Next. And then if you're going to be installing, we're going to hit Install Now. Otherwise, if you're trying to repair the operating system, you can do Repair Your Computer. But for us, we're going to be installing this fresh, so we're going to hit Install Now. It's going to go ahead and it's going to start the setup process for this. And it brings us up to this. So now we're going to select our type of operating system that we're going to install. You can see they're all Windows Server 2022, but we have Standard and Data Center. You have Desktop, and this other one is going to be considered Core. Core is going to be straight command line, whereas Desktop is going to give you the full-fledged environment with desktop background and everything and interactive menus. So for this purpose right now, we're going to select our Standard Edition Desktop, or Standard Evaluation Desktop Experience. We're going to click Next. And that's going to bring us up to this. Of course, we're going to read all the way through this. We know what all this is. We accept, and we hit Next. Now for this, we're going to be doing a custom install Microsoft operating system only. Advanced, it says advanced, but being that we are installing this from scratch, we have to do this one. We're not upgrading an operating system. If you were to upgrade an operating system, this is the selection you would go with. Otherwise, we're going to click this. We're going to select our drive right here. We're going to click New. Whenever you do this, it's going to create some additional partitions onto the drive that are going to be for these. These are recovery partitions. If you don't click New and you just click Next on the other screen previously, then there's a chance that these partitions will be laid out of order, and it could make basically administrating the system a little bit of a nightmare later on down the line. So we're going to select our primary partition. We're going to click Next. And it's going to go through the installation process now, and we'll see you whenever it gets done with this. Alright, so after the installation completes, we're going to be greeted with this screen right here. This is going to be the administrator account that we're going to use on the server. This is going to be the local administrator account at the moment right now. So we want to use a somewhat complex but memorable password, and we're either going to hit finish or we're going to hit enter. That's going to apply that password through there. Alright, so after it applies that, we're going to be here on the administrator screen, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to type in that password for it, and it's going to log in. During this login, you're going to see a couple of screens appear. It's going to be doing the initial configuration of the computer itself, because this is going to be our first time logging into it with this actual account. And then here in just a second, there it is. You're going to see the desktop pop up. Now this is going to be just like you would see with any of your other computers. It's got the desktop elements to there. It's got the start menu, got the taskbar and everything. So it should look relatively familiar to you. This is going to be the network options. We don't have to worry about this right now for test environment. But one of the things that I do want to mention is now that we do have the operating system installed, we're going to be diving into some of the baseline essential configurations that you're going to need to perform after installing Windows Server 2022 each and every single time, in my opinion. We're going to cover everything from setting the computer name, configuring network settings, enabling RDP, setting the time zone, activating the product key, and running the Windows Server updates. It's going to be something crucial that you want to make sure that you do every single time, because you want to have your baselines in place. So it's going to say, hey, you want to try using Windows Admin Center. Right now we're not going to worry about this. We're not going to show it again. We're going to close out of it. So to rename our server, what we're going to do is we're going to go over here on the left hand side of Server Manager, and we're going to click Local Server. And then as you can see here, the computer name is pretty much a whole bunch of gobbledygook. This means nothing to us, so we want to make sure that we're setting it to something that is going to be meaningful to us, meaningful to others, something that's easy to identify. So it's been my experience pretty much that you want to stick to a naming scheme that makes sense, such as naming it for a purpose, as well as putting a appending number at the end of it. So for example, if this was our domain controller, we'd want to make it DC01. If it's our file server, we'd want to name it file server 01. And then you can do 02, 03, 04, and everything as you continue to grow out your environment, you cluster, and you kind of continue to grow. You want to avoid using basically what I would consider to be not very good names. I would call them stupid names in my opinion. Some places, if you go in there and you walk in and you see a computer name, it's like Death Star, or it's Ironhide, or it's Grimlock, or it's the Ninja Turtle or something. You're looking at that and you're going, what in the world does this server do? That doesn't help you. It doesn't help the admin that's going to come in after you, because eventually somebody will more than likely take over your environment. You want to make sure that you're leaving something that's nice, clean, and not cursing your name. So to rename the computer, we're going to go over here and we're going to look for the hyperlink of the name itself next to computer name. We're going to click on that. And then this is going to bring up our system properties. We're going to go down here to change. We're going to click on change. And then we want to make sure that this computer name field right here is highlighted. So being for me, this is going to be a domain controller a little bit later on in some of the other videos. I'm going to name this one DC for domain controller. And of course, 01, because if we have multiples of them, then I'll have a DC02, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So we're going to hit OK. And it's going to let us know that in order to rename this computer, you will have to restart to apply these changes. We're going to hit OK. We'll hit close. And then this right here gives you the opportunity to go ahead and restart now to apply those changes. Or if you need to make additional changes, you can hit restart later. For me, I have additional changes that I want to make. I'm going to hit restart later. In conjunction with renaming the computer, if we wanted to change to a different work group, or if we want to change to a domain, that's also going to be part of the same menu. And then it's going to be down here in this section. Whenever you're renaming the computer, if you saw, this is actually available to be clicked on, but because we have a pending change for the computer name, we currently cannot do that. But we could do that same way. Domain, add in a domain name. It'll attempt to contact that domain. Being that this is a domain controller for the first new environment, it's not really going to do us any good, so we leave it in work group. So we're going to hit cancel. We're going to get out of that. We're going to hit cancel as well on that one. So now we're going to be doing a static IP address. If you're doing a domain controller, if you're doing a server or something like that, you're either going to want to be doing a static IP address or you're going to be doing a DHCP reservation. So currently, if we open up PowerShell here, and then we do ipconfig, old command, you can see right now that we do have this, which is a localized APIPA address. So it should be hooked up to my wireless. I'm doing wireless pass-through on here. So we're going to do an ipconfig renew, and we're going to get us a new IP address. If you have DHCP, which this wireless network does, it's going to go ahead and assign an IP address. So for example here, it's going to be 192.168.1.43. So if we want to keep this IP address because we're happy with it for whatever reason, we'll shrink this down over here to the side. And then we go over here to, once again, that little hyperlink thing next to Ethernet, and then we're going to click this. Next, we're going to see our adapters come up. We're going to right click and we're going to go to properties. We want to look for IPv4 currently because we're not interested in doing IPv6. And we're going to say use the following IP address. So we bring up this window over here again, and we can see it's 192.168.1.43. So we're going to come over here and we're going to do 192. Helps if numlock is on. 192.168.1.43. This is going to be a 24 subnet. So it's going to be 255.255.255.0, which is going to be that 24 octet. And then our gateway, which is going to be 192.168.1.1. DNS server, feel free to set this to whatever you want. But we're going to do Google's DNS currently. And then we're going to hit OK. And now we hit close on this. And that will go ahead and give us our IP address, which if we do ipconfig again, you can see our IP address is still 192.168.43. So that is going to be a static IP address on this server, which is something that we want to make sure that we do. If you go ahead and you click refresh up here, it's going to regather some of the inventory on the server, and it updates it. And you can see now, instead of it saying the other thing it said, it is statically assigned. So now we're going to turn on RDP. RDP is extremely useful in most environments. So you want to make sure that you go ahead and you click on that hyperlink again, and then you can see, hey, this little window pops up for system properties again. Same one, computer name. Now we're all the way over here on the right-hand tab for remote. And we're going to click remote allow connections to this computer. And it gives us a little bit of a heads up on here saying, the firewall exceptions will go ahead and be automatically enabled for here. So we're going to hit OK. And if we wanted to make this a little bit more secure, or if we wanted to add additional users to be able to get into this other than the administrators, we would hit select users. But for now, we're going to leave this as is. We're going to be leaving it for administrators only to the server. We're going to hit apply. Hit OK. So now if you were to be working with a full-blown operating system, as far as this is evaluation that I'm currently running, and you wanted to activate an actual license key code, you would click this right here for the product ID, and you'd go ahead and you would punch in that activation key code for your server. Being that we're on evaluation, we currently don't have to do that. But that's how you would go through and you would do that. Now, for the time zone, we want to make sure that you are in the correct time zone. So we're going to click change time zone. We're going to find your time zone. So for example, if you're in Eastern, you're going to click Eastern. If you're in Central, you want to go to Central, Pacific, Mountain, whatever you want to do. So we are going to click Eastern because I am Eastern. And we're going to see that the current date and time is here. And then the new date and time, once we actually flip over to this new time zone, is going to be 11 p.m. We're going to hit OK. And then we're going to see the time has changed here, and the time has changed down to the bottom right-hand corner. So we're going to hit OK, and that is going to be the change time on the time zone. So for Windows updates now, you can go a couple of different ways of doing it. If you go here and you click settings, and then you click updates, that's cool and all. Me, I like to try to avoid the start menu whenever I can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the Windows key and I, and we're going to bring up settings here. Same exact way to get to it, just another different fun little way to get to it. So we're going to click update and security, and then we're going to click check for updates. It's the same way that you update your home computer, your home PC, your workstation, whatever it is if you have the availability. And now it's going to go ahead and it's going to reach out and it's going to download some of those updates. If you're running a normal computer with no additional setups, it's going to reach out to Microsoft and it's going to download the updates. Otherwise, if you're running something like a WSUS or a patch manager or something like that, it'll do it through that, or if you're running a proxy, and then it'll run through your proxy. So just something to keep in mind. You want to make sure that you apply Windows updates before you roll out any type of production environment. So, and that's it. We've covered the installation of the operating system through Microsoft Server Operating System Setup. Covered some of the essential post-installation configuration for Windows Server 22. And that's going to be it for this video. So if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, for more tutorials. I'll be coming out with some additional stuff. I'd like to say thanks for watching, and I appreciate you guys, and we'll see you in the next one.